We are giving the green light to get gardening. Finally, one of the first tasks, I have to say, and the most fun, is to fill those outdoor porch planters or those outdoor pots. You will spend less at the garden center if you go with a plan. We are rolling out some great potted looks for container gardening in 2023. Our expert is Brian Olson from Olson's Greenhouse. Brian Lloyd, excuse me.
Brian Lloyd.
I know your name. Yeah, they put it in the prompter. I will read it. Brian Lloyd from Olson's Greenhouse. It's so good to see you.
We're still a family business, so I'm part of the family.
It's all in the family. Speaking of, we were just catching up on the grandkid count, which is going up for you.
We're at 7, looking for 2 more on the way.
I love it. Some of these friends are annual friends, so I'm so excited to see you for more than one reason. But you've got to be giddy that we finally have a chance to talk about this.
So much so. I'm team no more winter, right? Isn't everybody?
I'll join.
Okay,
I'll
so
subscribe.
We're totally ready, and it's kind of late this season, so I'm itching to get going. And no better way to start the gardening season off than with containers.
Yes.
Because our weather in the spring is so weird in Utah. We can still get some cold temps.
Right.
And containers make it really easy to move them in and out as the temperatures come and go.
We can babysit as we need to. If I were to pin you down, Brian Lloyd, what is one thing you're most excited about when it comes to planting for the 2023 season?
I just think I'm so glad that we have been blessed with so much water, right?
Yes.
And we need those for flowers. And so this is going to be a great season. Things are going to look amazing. It's time to get out in the yards and spruce them up and make them look amazing for the spring.
Before we talk about the fun and the color and the varieties and all that's new and there to get excited about, let's go over some practicals as we talk about planting. First, you say good drainage. Got to have that.
Yeah, the thing with planters and containers is they 99% of plants love water, but they need it to get away once they've drank it. You don't want to waterboard your plants. So you've got to get the water away. So most containers nowadays especially come without any holes in the bottom.
Why is that? Why don't they just do it for us?
Because of the reason I'm going to show you in just a second. So if you're planting straight into a container, you've got to make sure there's drainage holes. I like to do like 1/2 inch, maybe 5/8 of an inch. The smaller holes, you just need more of them. Just make sure there's good drainage, that the water's getting away from the planter. But what I was talking about, the reason why a lot of container manufacturers are not putting holes in anymore is the water can stain our concrete, our patios, and we don't always want that. So a great tip is if you buy a planter, if you don't want it to stain, buy 2 planters. Buy one without holes and and then plant in the one with holes and make it 2, maybe even up to 6 inches smaller and set it inside here. And then you just need to make sure you drain that extra water somewhere else, move the planter, drain the extra water every week or 2.
This becomes the upside down umbrella that catches all the
rain. It's like your saucer. Or if you don't have that option, you can put a saucer underneath to protect your finishings.
Nice. We've got to use a potting mix, not a garden soil. Quickly explain the difference for us.
The same thing. Garden soil is made up of particles that make it dense and not drain very well for the most part. Whether you pull it from your yard or you buy the actual bags that say garden soil on them, those are bad for containers because they don't have as good a drainage. And so you want potting mix. It's light and fluffy, and what it does is it lets it drain and it lets air get in, which the roots need to breathe.
Okay, as we're choosing plants at the garden center this year, you want us to opt for the mature ones.
Right. Yeah, when you're doing container design, I think it's kind of an old wives' tale that you want to plant them up with small plants, maybe save some money, and let them grow over the season. And that can work, but we have such a short growing season. I'm a proponent of putting mature plants in. It's like sending your teenagers away for school and getting, when they turn 11 or 12, sending them to finishing school, and you get them back and they're nice and they're respectful. We do all that with the plants in the nursery. We grow them up so they're big enough. And if you buy mature plants that are ready to go and blooming already, then you can put them together and have a nice full container you can enjoy all season.
You say pack them in too.
Yeah, pack them in tight. Most people don't realize, like I've got 3 big plants in here, but there's probably 12 to 15 smaller plants that made up those big plants that I combined all into one container.
And this is the lush look we want. In some cases, though, you do want us to leave gap areas. How come?
Yeah, and so what I'm talking about here is a spacer. So this is a Sonetti. It's an early spring blooming plant. When the temperatures warm up in about 2 or 3 weeks, this is going to go out of bloom. But the rest of the container is going to continue to thrive. And so what I've done is I've planted a pot in a pot.
Oh, look at you.
And we can just take that pot out.
It's an illusion.
It leaves a space in there to put a different pot that's better suited for summer
For that
later on.
season, for that heat. Okay, you've brought some jaw-dropping container gardens. Will you walk me through kind of the design and also the practicality and what we're planting and how that works?
Yeah, there's 3 tips that I want everybody to know. So those were the basics, the foundationals that everybody needs for container gardening. But if you want stunning containers in your landscape this year, you've got to pay attention to 3 things. And the first thing is thrillers, fillers, and spillers.
Wait,
We've gone
I've heard
over
that
this
before.
100 times, right?
Wait, it's coming back to me. Yeah.
Thrillers, fillers, and spillers. The thriller is a centerpiece. It's something to draw your attention in.
Yeah.
And it's a showpiece. It's a focal point. Usually it's taller and bigger. Sometimes it's got flowers, sometimes not. These cannas I just love for thrillers. Like, I'm using them in all my containers this year because they give a tropical feel. They'll get like 2 to 3 times bigger than this.
Oh, wow.
With tons of flowers all summer long, and they look amazing.
I like the hardiness of the foliage, too.
And then we have to fill around the gap with something that's mounding habit. So these are geraniums. A lot of petunia varieties are mounding and trailing. And then we always want the spiller, something to spill over the edge to soften the edges of the container and bring it all together. And that's things like verbena, calibrachoa, sometimes petunias. But all 3 work together to give you the height and the mass of the planter.
Let's talk color. Advise us on how to create a combination that looks pleasing.
Let's go down here and talk about the basics of color. So you took an art class probably when you were in school.
Once upon a time.
I don't know, we don't need to call out what grade you got, right?
Thanks, Brian.
But back to art class. So these are the basics, and the good thing is the internet is here to save the day.
Okay.
I failed art, okay? But you can always go, the people have the hardest time figuring out what colors to put together. So you can always go with the color wheel. Did you know Isaac Newton created the first color wheel?
I don't think I knew that.
The apple guy, right?
Okay.
And so what you want is primary colors. Remember, red, yellow, and blue. So you can always go with primary colors or secondary colors. Those 3 colors always work together.
Okay.
But that to me is kind of basic. And so and then within colors, you can also do warm colors, like these are reds, yellows, and oranges.
Does that help to stick with a tone, like a warm tone or a cool tone?
It does.
Okay.
It totally gives you a vibe and a feel. So if you're out on the patio and it's early spring and you want the warm thoughts coming, use warmer colors. If you'd rather have a more relaxing setting and cool colors, something like this with pastels and pinks and blues.
Funny, I'm drawn to the cool colors, but only when it comes to plants and flowers. I think most people will have a preference that way.
Well, this is the coolest thing, and I don't know if you're drawn to this container,
but
this is a theory called analogous colors, and this is picking 3 colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. In this case, we're picking blue, purple, and pink.
Blue, purple, pink.
And when you do that, when you do analogous colors, they always work together, but what you want to do is concentrate on one, and you can see we've got mostly purple here, and then lightly use the other 2 colors. So that's what we're doing here. It doesn't matter which you use heavy and which you use light, but you want to have 3 colors next to each other on the color wheel.
So sort of 2 options on the color wheel. You can jump across the street and go with the direct opposite.
Those are complementary colors.
They're complementary, or you can go next door.
Analogous.
Okay.
Exactly. So use the art theory.
You're earning that art grade. A+ to you now. You've redeemed yourself.
There you go. But that's a great way you can put colors together and make sure that they always work.
Okay. And finally, you say texture. We sometimes overlook texture in our containers.
So the biggest thing is once we've got our color down and our height and shape of the planter with thrillers, fillers, and spillers, we don't want to lose sight of texture, and we want to have complementary textures and different textures to give some interest to the planter. So this can be textures through leaves. Like I love verbenas. They kind of give a sharp feeling. And then softer feelings of petunias. I love the tropical feel of canna leaves. And then even when we get into something like scaevola, all these different complementary textures, but what I always love to do is soften the planter up and finish it with something like Gara or lobelia. So here's lobelia with the nice dainty leaves. It kind of softens everything up and pulls it all together. Or Gara works really similar to that as well in this shade planter that we have down here.
So it becomes a contrast, that thicker texture foliage. What was this plant name that you loved?
This is lobelia.
This one right here.
The canna.
Canna. Yeah, so it balances the texture or the weight of those particular plants in the same container. I learned a lot today. I feel like all of our art grades just elevated.
Now we can have some amazing wow containers on our patios.
Let's do it. In fact, you always kick off the season with your Container Fest event at Home Depot. When is that?
This Saturday, the 29th of April, at any Home Depot in the Wasatch Front. We have experts from the greenhouse there to help you pick out your flowers, but the bigger thing, the better thing is free soil. So bring your containers from home from last year. You can buy new ones if you don't have any at the store, and we'll fill it up with free soil and we'll plant them for you with your help But the biggest thing is you got a huge selection of flowers to pick from because it's spring.
Nice. Hooray. We'll celebrate that too. So any Home Depot.
At any Home Depot.
Will be our friend this weekend. And we say it's one way you kick off at Olson's Greenhouse. It's how I kick off our planting season too. So thank you so much.
And that's Saturday from 8 to 2.
8 to 2 on Saturday. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Brooke.
We appreciate it.